Hi, I'm Lynn.
And I'm Amanda, and this is The Pursuit of Badasserie, the podcast.
This podcast is all about taking action and creating that badass business abundance and life that you want.
Where we share stories, laughs, wins, and epic fails to show you the whole picture of the entrepreneurial journey.
It's not just unicorns and rainbows, people.
Jump on and follow us through this raw and witty roller coaster,
where we get down and dirty and go behind the scenes of life and entrepreneurship.
Get on it,
get over it,
and get after it.
Hey, I'm Lynn.
And I'm Amanda. Welcome to The Pursuit of Badasserie, the podcast. Let's talk about something that I am sure every entrepreneur faces probably daily, definitely yearly, and that is decision fatigue. We have 1,001,000 quadrillion decisions to make over the course of any given day. And some days it's just too much. Let's talk about it.
I think that there's a couple of different almost like phases to decision fatigue. You can have it where it's situational. You can have it in the moment. You're feeling overwhelmed or whatever. But I definitely want to talk to especially the ladies. I know men have it too, but the ladies who are like maybe around our age that are just over making all the decisions. Like they're just tired of all the responsibilities of making everything flow. And you just don't want to do it anymore. You're tired of the one holding it all together, driving the ship, and everybody else is just kind of a passenger in your life. You know what? We set it up ourselves. We train others how to treat us. So when we're the ones always making the decisions, always making sure everything's done, then we can find ourselves in a particular situation where we're just exhausted. We're tired. We're tired of making the choices. We're tired of being the end to the end. We're tired of it.
Absolutely. And it trickles down in so many ways. And I definitely feel like the work decisions are plentiful, but then life decisions as well. It's a combination of all the decisions you have to make over any part of the day. And by the end of the day, you can't even decide what to have for dinner because you've already made 67,000 decisions that day. There are so many reasons why you might find yourself in this decision fatigue. And there are some days it just doesn't bother you, and other days it hits you super hard. And again, as Lynn was saying, that could be situational. That could just be a straw that broke the camel's back. But I also want to talk about what we can do about it, because we don't just want to sit in all the decision fatigue that we have. I think it's important also to talk about how we can get out of it. And I think for me, one of the best things that I learned to start getting out of decision fatigue was with the Eisenhower matrix. And I know we've talked about the Eisenhower matrix before, but it is a tool that we use to help make decisions and make them more efficient. And I definitely feel that when I have decision fatigue and everything just seems to be hitting me hard and nothing seems to want to have a decision made, then I will often fall back to basic productivity tools to help me get out of it so that I can move forward, make the decision, and then move on in my life with whatever I'm stuck with. So if you're not familiar with the Eisenhower matrix, it basically rates your tasks between urgent and important, or not urgent and not important. And it can really help you prioritize and choose what to tackle, even if you're done tackling all the things. There's so many things all the time.
I love the practical tools, but I will say it starts with mindset. If your head is in your ass and you're playing victim, then it's going to be hard for you to get out of decision fatigue. Absolutely. The Eisenhower matrix is great. Delegation, learning to delegate. But I would say, besides where's your mindset, and are you continuing this decision fatigue? It's also like building boundaries. No is a complete sentence. You've heard us say it 100 million times. No is a complete sentence, and really like not taking responsibility for other people's stuff and learning boundaries to protect your own time, your own energy, your own sanity. And it is starting small, like understanding that you have decision fatigue. And it's funny because when we decided to do this, I'm thinking of like all these videos on social media about women dating. and how they want a man to make the decisions, a man like, and this hyper independent, highly achieved women who are like, no, I can be submissive if I have somebody who can hold the space in order to allow that to happen. I think that that's also like, that's part of the mindset, but also the boundaries is like, don't let these people around you, either it be weak men or business associates or kids or whatever it is, suck your time and energy. Like, start to create those boundaries and use the word no.
Yeah, I think it's funny that you mentioned the dating aspect of it, because I was just talking with someone today about that dynamic. And I absolutely, like, if you want to get personal, if I get asked out on a date and they ask me to plan it, the date's already over. I don't want to plan one more thing. And it definitely, it's part of that decision fatigue. But I mean, at that point, there's so many decisions I have to make. And I get that both genders, or I get everybody has to make decisions in your life. But from an entrepreneurial standpoint, we have a lot of extra decisions to make, even more so than you make in just I'm not trying to poo-poo 9-to-5 jobs, but there's a different system of decision making you have to make.
Responsibility
absolutely.
And weight that's on you versus someone who has a 9-to-5.
So it's just different. I'm not poo-pooing that scenario. It's just, there are a lot more decisions, deciding on who gets to keep their job, deciding on what vendors to use, deciding on, I mean, literally, I could go on for a very long time about all the random decisions you make over the course of a day. So, but boundaries is a huge one. Your mindset is a huge one. I love that you kept it real and said, just get your head out of your ass. You have to understand that that's what's happening and kind of own up to your side of it, because it's very easy to sit in it and be sad that you have so many decisions, be sad that you can't make a decision. I have dealt with that quite a bit this last 2 months, of just that limbo period. And then it can even force you into perfectionism again. And there's all sorts of things that can come from that if you sit in that too long. So definitely set up some boundaries and, set up systems, set up automation, set up things. If you can get rid of some of your decisions, even better. If there's things that you, every time, like, at 3:00, the mail comes and you've got to pick up a package, like, automate that, get them to get somebody who picks it up for you, go, whatever it is you need to do to try to systemize or automate. There's the word I'm looking for. Automate. Words are hard. Automate whatever you can, because that's going to also take away some of that decision. Or if you can come up with SOPs around specific things, like, if somebody emails me about this is the response that I have, a canned email that goes out. If somebody has a question, it's like creating your FAQs on your website. If someone has a question about our hours of operation, we'll send them this link. So it just becomes very streamlined. So you're not deciding what bits and pieces to send somebody. If X happens, then Y is the result of that. Or even creating boundaries within your business of what you will and will not do. Like, I will not answer the phone after 9 p.m. I will not answer the phone before 6 a.m. Like, whatever your boundary is. But setting that up will help create, so you're not going to have to make decisions between 9 and 6, because you've already set up a boundary that those are kind of your cutoffs.
Yeah, I love that you said automate and simplify. Again, usually with decision fatigue, it's not just about the business, it's about life. Life is lifing. So can you meal prep? Can you only shop one day? Like, how can you automate and simplify things throughout your whole life? It's not just about your business, but baby steps are important. I think the other thing too is we can get into this, like, over complicating things or over analyzing. So almost like picking your battles. At the end of the day, some decisions don't have to be so complicated. Like, just do it, move on, right? Some things you need a little bit more, maybe thought to it or process to it. But a lot of times when people become decision fatigued, they can react in two big ways. One, head in the sand and allow, kind of like the ostrich, head in the sand. The other one is like, just things have to become a bit more complicated because we get into the weeds. And that Amanda kind of touched on it. That could be a little bit of the perfectionism. That could be in the bit of like, you're losing control and like, this is your only way to have control. But either one is not necessarily a good thing to do. Like acknowledge, move on, acknowledge, move on. And I know it's easier said than done. And it's funny because I go back to, because I've definitely gotten into decision fatigue and I definitely feel it a lot. I remember like going through, like letting go of everything in my house when I decided to go international. And I remember having a conversation with a girlfriend. I was actually in Bogota and we're having a coaching call because we were both in a program, ICF program, to learn coaching. And I was like, okay, this is the way I'm going to do it, X, Y, Z. And like, essentially I went to each room and I touched something one time and it either got donated, kept, or given away. Like I had this process that helped me like run through it. So that way with all of the other decisions I was making, with going international, my kids were moving out of the nest, like all these other things that were in my control that I was making decisions on, and also dealing with life and emotions and all of the businesses, because I was also selling a business at the time. I was also stepping into a COO role. I was able to hyper focus in on having a really clear system that helped me go through a big house with 2 decades worth of, stuff from raising kids, maybe not quite 2 decades, but a decade and a half of stuff of raising kids, and like go through it. And so it's just so important to not get lost in the weeds as much as possible. Systems can help with that. Calling yourself out can help with that. Eisenhower matrix can definitely help with that. I think having a buddy or like some kind of like support system can definitely help with that. Having conversations around it. I think it's a bit taboo, especially for type A women, especially I think there's a little bit of taboo of having conversations around it, and also an internal conflict. I mean, we talked about dating, and it's funny because I know women who want the men to make the decision, but they don't give the men the capacity to make that decision. And so are you actually setting that up for success? Or are you continuing to have that play out? Right. And so there's a lot of internal stuff that needs to be kind of checked, but also then your actions and reactions as well.
100%. There's so much more to it than we're even letting ourselves realize. And it's all very fixable if we let ourselves do it. You just got to sort of get over the stress of it and the control of it and all the things that are contributing. And like we said, simplify, systemize, automate, delegate, not just work related. I mean, I've talked about productivity, but it's not just work, it's life. I mean, I don't go on a different errand every single day. I run all my errands at once. So I only have to leave the house once. I only have to put on pants once. Like we batch those things as much as you can and set those boundaries, delegate what you can, get rid of things. And ultimately, small actions can also help with that. Decisions, you're never going to not have a decision to make. And even if you want to give yourself like a decision-free zone, like these 3 hours, I don't have to make decision. You had to decide to have that. There's going to always be decisions that you have to make. You can't escape them, but you can make them more manageable. You can overcome certain blocks you have around those decisions. And there will be decisions. I'm sure this is no shocker. Some decisions are easier than others. And even if they're an easy decision, it doesn't mean it's an easy to execute the decision. It's how many of us stay in long relationships longer than we should. Just because we know we need to get out of it doesn't mean not just social relationships, but business relationships and vendor relationships or family relationships. All sorts of things can come up with that. You stay in it longer than you want to because you're avoiding the decision. And just because you've decided that that's what's going to happen doesn't mean that the action and that follow through is going to be quick either. So, and that also contributes to decision fatigue, because until you've actually done the deciding and you've actually gone through the action, it's still there in your head and it's still part of your decision fatigue, because if you haven't finished the action, it's still in the decision mode because you can still undecide.
100%. I agree. When you were talking, I had this vision of being behind somebody at like Starbucks, and they are, how many times have you been to Starbucks? Like, you should know the menu by now. Like, don't complicate stuff. What are you in the mood for? You had the idea that you were going to come to Starbucks. Now, mind you, some people might not know what they want and might want to be inspired, but that's also like just that, like processing, that overcomplicating of things can just add to the stressor. And we literally just had this conversation with our group of entrepreneurs as well. I think one other thing that we didn't mention that I think is really important is scheduling disconnect and rest. And you started to talk about like the decision to disconnect, but it is important to have that in your schedule. So that way you're not making decisions, you're resting, you're recharging, you're allowing your brain to like kind of just calm down. And that could be anywhere from a couple of hours to a couple of weeks, depending on the intensity of how you are. But when you come back from that rest, it's important for you to come back like clear mind and fresh versus diving right back into the whatever the energy that all of the decision making holds for you.
100%.
Yeah. So do you have decision fatigue? We want to hear in the comments what's worked for you, what's helping. Are you acknowledging it? And what are you doing to not have it? Because it has to start with you. It's not going to start from anybody else. So it has to start with you.
And I want to give one last tip on decision fatigue. This is the tip that was given to me handed down from generations of Fridgewells. If you can't make a decision, like let's say you can't decide what you want for dinner and like, okay, burger or pizza, pick one arbitrarily. And then how does your body feel right after? Do you feel like, a little bit of regret? Like then you should have gone with pizza and then you make that decision moving on. But if you feel like, yeah, that's good, burger fat sounds great, then that was the right decision. Even if pizza also sounds good, like go with your gut instinct on it. If you make a decision before you've actually executed, see how that feels in your body. And if it feels wrong, then it is. Pick the other one. See how it feels.
That was a good one. All right. So do you have decision fatigue? And how are you navigating it? There's many other points that we could cover, but we want to keep this short and concise and actually manifest in so many different ways, not just you feeling overwhelmed. There are so many different things that can happen when you're in decision fatigue. I think it's time to call it. Yeah.
All right. Let us know in the comments. How is your decision fatigue going? Have you ever experienced it? If you haven't, I want to know your secret. Please teach me your ways. And until next time, get after it.
All right, everyone. It's not enough to just listen.
Now you've got to put it into action.
We are so excited to see what you do next.
If you enjoyed our show, please leave us a review on iTunes.
And to find out more about what we're doing, visit us at thepursuitofbadasserie.com.